All right, thank you very much. One of the more interesting and a little bit controversial, but still interesting and fascinating aspects of this conference is that we'll be having an IPv6 only hour. And to introduce the notion and the project, Randy Bush will be coming up to give some comments. Where's Randy? Oh, there's. I believe your talk is...
Lavalier, thank you.
Which is yours?
I don't know.
This one?
0802 there, that looks like it. Okie doke. Back a decade ago, we abused one of the three developers of Ethernet, Robert Metcalfe, for telling us that the network would collapse, and he ate his article that he wrote in InfoWorld. Oops, I guess I got to be near here to hit next, don't I? Thank you. So this is going to be, we get to eat our own dog food, okay? And the purpose of the experiment is right now, flip, would you? Right now, we should be eating our own dog food before inflicting it on our customers. Before we make decisions about V6 deployment and before we advise our customers about V6 deployment, we should know what it tastes like, what it takes to make it edible. And so this week you're going to sample 2 recipes we have come up with for cooking dog food to make it edible. Okay? And it's on the network. It will be here all week, the 3 days of the meeting, et cetera, sorry, the metaphorical week. And there will be probably one time, and I forget the time slot, on Tuesday, where we're actually going to turn off the V4 network. There will be 2 very good speakers during that time, so maybe you don't need network at all. And for those people who really need network because you have operational responsibilities, there's going to be some breakout room where the V4 is. So we're not going to completely deny your drugs. Okay? And the idea, the purpose of this is not abuse. It's to actually sort out what are the problems in V6, real V6 pragmatic deployment, because many of us have to face it. And we're already finding out things this morning about how you have to configure a Mac so that DNS resolves properly for SSH, et cetera. So the purpose here is A, educational, for us all to learn some stuff, B, document. Okay, so things that can get fixed, and we're going to be rolling this something similar out next week at Apricot APNIC meeting in Taipei. We're going to do something similar at IETF in Philadelphia in 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, RIPE, et cetera. So it's time to start learning about V6. And we could have put up a pure IPv6 network to try, but you'd only be able to get to the 1/10 of the percent of the internet that's IPv6. So what you get to see is the wonderful Kame dancing turtle that's famous. And so here it is now, because we don't have a pure IPv6 network here. So here's the dancing Kame, just so you can see it. It's a terribly cute meme, but you probably wanted more from the internet. And your customers probably want more from the internet. So what do you have to do to get more from the internet, to get to the real internet at the same time? So what we have is a pure IPv6, one of them. We have 4 SSIDs up, and I'll enumerate them shortly. But one of them is a pure IPv6 network with NATPT, Protocol Translator at the border, okay? So that it can get to the dual stack external internet. So you can get to the IPv6 world, and you can get to the IPv4 world. So you can see the Kame, and you can see Yahoo. All the endangered species are visible. Okay? This should work for Unix, Linux, Mac, Vista, those things where the V6 stack and how it's integrated in the applications are supposedly well done. In fact, we are finding breakage on all of them. okay? Or that you have to configure it this way while standing on one foot, your finger in your ear, et cetera. We're trying to document all those and what has to be done, what the road bumps are, et cetera, et cetera. NATPT is a protocol translator that on the inside has V6 only, okay? And on the outside is dual stack. So the LAN is V6 only. It goes to a NATPT translator at the exit and can talk to the dual stack, both V4 and V6 internet. Okay? Cisco routers have this built in, kind of, and we're discovering some wonderful things about that at the moment. So things aren't really working. The things I'm describing are not really working perfectly, and we think we're going to be able to fix them by the break. We're learning a lot, and that was the purpose of the exercise. Okay? That does stateful translation of TCP when there's no embed, when the protocol doesn't embed an IP address in it, like FTP does, like some of the PTP protocols do, et cetera, et cetera. For those that do embed IP addresses, which is a bad habit, you have to have ALGs. So for FTP, RTP, et cetera, there have to be application layer gateways built into the NATPT. For those who don't know, NATPT is a controversial subject within the ITF. The ITF just last summer said NATPT shouldn't really be done, it's historic, and at the same time they realized there's no choice. So the NATPT is being revived and fixed, and God knows what they'll decide to call it to save face, but next. Okay, Windows XP has a very interesting problem. It can move payload over V6 when you enable it, but it does not do DNS over V6 transport. So if it could get that quad A record, everything would work, but it can't find the DNS server on a V6 network. It can't get to it. This is a horrible bug. Microsoft's answer is buy Vista. I've been trying Vista for the last couple of days because my stupidity, I left my power brick at home, so I had to borrow Joel's Vista laptop. Vista seems like Windows XP with more GUI and less functionality, to tell you the truth. So I ain't buying it. I wish they would fix the bug. So I'm heading for the Mac store today. And I'm not kidding. So the LAN, so you have to have some V4 to get to the DNS server. So we have a hack whereby one of the networks is up, one of the SSIDs is up specifically for XP victims, and it has RFC 1918 private space to carry DNS traffic. So you can get to the DNS server, but you can't exit on V4. Okay? So, you can now get to a DNS server, you can get the quad A record, and you can exit via V6 to get to the world through the NATPT, so you can get to both V4 and V6 worlds. Okay? But there's no IPv4 exit. Okay? There's a DNS hack needed for this. And the hack's called TOTD. And what it does is, if you were on a pure V6 network, what do you do when you get an A record? You're not going to be able to use it. You need a quad A. Okay? So the DNS server is a special DNS server that takes the A record and embeds it within a hacked V6 prefix to synthesize a quad A. NATPT knows that hacked prefix and strips it and makes the... Go, Joel. Mike?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Is it on? Yeah. Just a quick note, the DNS hack is required for virtually all NATPT implementations, so it's not a hack.
In here. Can you wait a minute?
Okay.
I got it. I just chose to introduce it at the right point. Okay, okay. So NATPT knows the hack prefix and strips it back to the V4 so it can go out the dual stack external network. Next. So our network looks like this. This is for, the pink is for the XPs, and it works for everybody, but it's for the XPs, but it's not a pure v6 transport because it has local 4, global 6. There's no default route out for the v4, okay, but it can get to the TOT-D hack, go out the v6 router, and at the NAT-PT to the dual stack internet. v6, as Joel noted, also needs the hack because what happens?
Oh, sorry.
What happens if one of these guys, who should be able to run on a pure v6, were to look up something, were to look up CNN.com, get back an A record? They couldn't do anything with it. So they also need the TOT-D hack to be able to get the synthesized quad A, go out here, have NAT-PT turn it into the A so they get there. Just so you understand the TOT-D hack, you really want to know all this stuff? The TOT-D hack, I'm the client. I'm on a v6 only client, okay? I issue a query to my local DNS cache, which is TOT-D hacked, for instance, google.com. It looks up google.com in the real world, and it gets back an A record. It says, the person who requested this is not going to be able to deal with an A record. So I will synthesize a hacked v6 quad A record, give it back to them. They will hand the quad A to the NAT-PT server, which will strip the hack off, turn it into an A record, issue the query, NAT-PT back. Disgusting, isn't it? Sorry, this is the kind of stuff that it probably takes to deploy v6 in reality. Okay? And what we're trying to do is find out what it really takes. Okay? So the plan is, all the SSIDs are up now. There's the classic NANOG and NANOG-A, which you may not have realized all the last years has actually been dual stack. v6 and v4, classic dual stack. These two networks, which we're debugging right now, NANOG v6 is the pure v6 transport, no v4, you cannot get a v4 address on it, with NAT-PT at the exit. And v6xp is the one with 1918 space, so you can get to the DNS server. Tuesday, for an hour or so, NANOG and NANOG-A will go away. Okay? We're actually going to try to measure who is using what succeeded, what failed. We very much want to get your data on what you experience and the bugs you experience, and we'll report on Wednesday. Okay? There is a website, the 5th cluster at civiltongue.net. This is a wiki. It has the instructions for how to turn on v6 on various platforms. It also has instructions for how to turn it back off for when you go back to the real v4 world, right? Okay, it's a wiki. So if we would love you to contribute what you learned to it, to edit the wiki, just create a logon ID, open a ticket and request editor privileges, and Queen Lucy will give you editor privileges. You can also just generate tickets to report problems, send feedback, etc., and we'll process the data. But we are very interested in where and why you succeed and where and why you failed, or what workarounds and fixes you discovered. Okay? And hit any of the network folk when you want to discuss it, get help, etc., etc. We are very interested in seeing this succeed. Okay, and thanks to these kind folk for helping put it all together. Do we have a minute for any questions?
Yeah, just a minute if there are questions.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy.